Greetings and salutations, this is Jarsz, the biggest YouTuber ever! And good morning, Jarsouls! Welcome to another edition of the Daily Jarsz, or the stupid that's fit to laugh at. Today we're looking at a channel that doesn't seem to understand how ironic its name is, Flat Earth Tess, run by Leake. Brian is a special kind of flurf whose critical thinking skills are next to non-existent, as you'll see. Indeed, I'm of the opinion that he's rather challenged, so it's a bit unfair to tease him, but hey, like all flurfs, he has a baseless ego that he seems incapable of doing anything about addressing that ego, and therefore he's trapped in the cycle of stupid. I pity him for that reason. But that doesn't stop the videos that he produces being really, really funny. But first, let me welcome all my members and thank you for all that you do. And yes, thank you to all the members. I see we have Judy Bassett there. Hopefully we'll get a few more members later in the stream. Thank you for being a part of the huge Jarsz movement. So now we move on to, I wanted to mention one thing first. Tomorrow, I'm going to do a Gary Wybenga special. And it's going to be the last time Gary gets mentioned on this channel. If by the end of the stream he hasn't presented any objective empirical evidence for Flat Earth, he and all his socks will be banned from this channel. Only the second person to ever be banned if that happens. I don't think I can be fairer to him than that. So I'm going to go through his channel, look at a few of his videos, and see if we can find some Flat Earth evidence. But if there isn't any, Gary's gone. Fair enough? I wonder if he'll show up today. We'll see. Don't block him. We'll just see what he says about that if he does show up. Anyway, and later in the week, I'm going to have a look at Flat Earth Banjo and his book. I'm amazed he can write, let alone write a book, which talks about 16 flights that prove Earth am flat. Actually, Banjo, they don't, but we'll have a look at that. So before we get into Brian, I think it's very important that I play this warning. Watch your headphones. It might be a bit loud. Headphone warning in 3, 2, 1. Severe facepalm warning is in effect. Oven mitts mandatory from this point forward. You are at risk of pummeling yourself to death with facepalm. Oh, the end of that was cut off. I might have to redo that then. All right then, let's get on with the stupid. You're painting your nails, Tusk? What, with a big fat paintbrush? This is, so there's 4 videos I want to have a look at. 2 of them are like part 1 and 2 of the same video. This one is where Leake thinks he's exposing MC Toon. It's going to be funny. And I'm going to play it at a quick speed so that we don't have to spend too much time listening to him.
Sun should be shining this way. Problem is, the sun is now way down here.
So if you raise up the moon half a degree, you would raise it up 2,000 miles, which is not, I mean, it kind of would help. But the sun, if you raise it up half a degree, you'd raise it up 800,000 miles. So
I'm not sure why he's talking about that, but I actually did the maths, and that's pretty accurate. So we can take that as a given. So that's all right. Let's continue.
Let me break this down.
This is Brian.
This is the excuse Toon uses for the top of the moon being lit when it's high in the sky from a sun sitting 1 degree above the horizon. Okay, because the moon, remember, can only be 240,000 miles above us at its maximum. So they show us this trigonometry where a sun 1 degree above the horizon is actually 1.6 million miles above our feet and like 1.4 million miles above the moon.
What? The sun is 96 million miles away. What are you talking about 1 million miles away? You got it wrong from the start, bro.
So, but then they'll simultaneously try and use it as a proof with the sun sitting barely above the horizon, shining up on the bottom of clouds or casting shadows on the bottom of clouds.
The reason it's a proof, Brian, is because that's impossible on flat Earth. If the sun's moving around above us, it can and above the clouds, it can never shine on the bottom of the clouds, can it?
So you can't have both. You can't have.
You can in a 3D universe, Brian. That's your problem. You're not really conceptualizing this from a 3D point of view. You can't just look at it from a flat Earth perspective. You've got to look at it from the point of view of the model that you're trying to debunk. Otherwise, you're not going to be looking at it in a valid way.
A sun sitting above the horizon, shining downward on the moon and upward on clouds. This kills parallel sun rays, which in turn kills the globe model.
No, Brian, your lack of understanding doesn't kill anything.
It was thrown at me that the sun putting a shadow up on the bottom of clouds or lighting up the bottom of clouds was some kind of proof for a globe, when in my earlier I showed how it works just with atmospheric lensing. But if we're going to use the trigonometry, if a sun is 1 degree above the horizon, that means it's 1,600,000 feet approximately. I mean, 1,600,000 miles above the tangent of my feet toward the horizon. So it's way above the clouds. So if a sun, I've showed several, but I've showed the sun up to like 4 or 5 degrees, still lighting up the bottom of clouds. Now, how can a sun that's millions of miles above that cloud be casting light on the bottom of that cloud?
So
that's the question we ask, Brian, of flat earthers, because it can't happen on a flat Earth. I don't know where you're getting this million miles from, because that's not the model that we claim. It's 96 million miles, or 150,000 kilometers. Oh, Second Best Bob's become a member again. Welcome back, Second Best Bob. And why didn't you let Toon reply to that to give you the answer? Did you just not like the answer?
Example, a sun 1 degree above the horizon, and after I show him the trig, he calls it a negative angle. That's called a bold-faced lie.
Oh. How's that possible?
I think you've just lied by omission, Brian. You're using a wrong figure and you're coming to a wrong conclusion.
Because it's not millions of miles above that cloud. That's easy.
Okay. So you disagree with the trig that a sun 1 degree above the horizon, okay, 93 million miles away, puts the opposite side at 1,600,000 miles? You disagree with the simple trig?
You did not show any trig, so I'm not going to agree or disagree to any trig that you're referencing.
So he can't address this, folks.
Because you didn't give him what he needed to address, you idiot.
They can't, and they won't.
That's because you've got it wrong, you twit.
So he just says, well, you ain't showed any trig. So then I pulled the trig, and then he just starts describing something underneath the tangent, like something I'm not even demonstrating. It's like talking to a donkey.
Yes, Brian, but you're the donkey.
Not seen it to agree or disagree with it.
All right, I can pull it real quick. I thought we were going to keep this honest.
So you're showing the...
Hang on. Keep this honest. You're not showing the thing you're claiming, and you say he's being dishonest? That was a fair response. You're saying, I can't agree or disagree with it because he hasn't seen it. That's the most reasonable thing you could possibly say. You're the one being dishonest by accusing him of being dishonest.
The trig right now for your distance above the tangent. Okay, I'll send it to Tim.
Put in
Your distance above the tangent.
So Jaron just looked at it. He understood it. Angle above the tangent. Why didn't Toon understand it? So I must have asked him 5 times.
I don't see what there is to understand yet. You haven't presented anything that could be understood.
Describing a sun 1 degree above the horizon, and he calls a sun 1 degree above the horizon a negative tangent. That's all he could do because he knows where it's heading. That, my friends, is blatant lies.
No, you don't understanding it doesn't mean he's lying. Dart says carrot plus donkey horse derby. Okay.
Okay, so if I go up above the clouds,
the sun is below the clouds in this instant when you're talking about the tangent there. The sun is below the clouds.
so if I go up above the clouds, then the sun's going to follow me up, right? So if I go up 1,000 miles, the sun's still going to be at a tangent to my feet, right? It's still going to be 1 degree above the tangent of my feet, right? Way above the clouds.
Look at Toon's face. I'm getting the same effect.
Right?
It was never above your tangent. It was always below your tangent. It was never above your tangent. It was always below your tangent.
And Brian, that's the answer that you are looking for. You're playing it slow as if you think it's wrong, but that's exactly what you've been asking for. It explains everything. You don't understand it, so therefore you think it's wrong. Man, you're a twit.
No matter how crystal clear I describe a sun 1 degree above the horizon, he keeps calling it below the tangent.
No, he said it was below the clouds. Oh, for God's sake.
That's how you expose a liar.
I'm on the moon.
Yes, you've exposed yourself, Brian.
And I have the same exact angle, damn near, as I had on the ground. A 1 degree shadow casted. I put a 1 meter stick in the ground. I've got about a 28 meter long shadow casted down 1 degree. If I go up 20 miles above the clouds, I've still got a downward 1 degree shadow, right? If I go up 1,000 miles, I've still got a downward 1 degree shadow. And you're disagreeing with the freaking triangle calculus?
Wouldn't that prove that the rays are parallel, meaning the sun is a long way away? You're debunking yourself, Brian. God. There's 40 seconds left, and I'm already had too much of Brian.
Later.
It was never above your tangent. It was always below your tangent.
There you have it, folks. Clinic number 1.
You don't understand what a tangent is, Brian, do you? A tangent to a sphere, at least.
On exposing MC Toon's lies. More to come. And
you not understanding it doesn't make it a lie.
so what they have, folks, is a mathematical model. So I'm attacking it within the model with the mathematics.
No, you're not.
So for
You're
the flat earthers who don't want to take the time to understand the math, I understand that.
No, you
but
don't.
Look at him squirm. You don't have to understand the math to watch him squirm and weasel his way out of answering the questions, because this one.
No, I'm watching MC Toon trying to explain it to a baby and failing because the baby doesn't understand.
They cannot answer.
We do answer, you just don't understand the answer because you're a twit. I'm all worked up, guys. I think I need to calm down for a bit. Man, that was stupid. Oh. Well, to be honest, I don't know if I can get into the rest of the videos. Someone, I wish we could post memes in this format. I need a break. Let's have a look at these Gleason's map. There's some music on this. I'm hoping that I've skimmed past most of it. So let's see how he thinks the Gleason map works. Maybe I'll let this play out a little bit more to let myself calm down a bit. That was crazy. Oh, what's the speed on this one? 1.5. Yep, that should be enough. Oop. There's not copyrighted music.
Globers have been making the claim that the azimuthal equidistant map is a projection of a globe, and that is because they clearly do not understand it. It can't possibly be a projection of a globe, and I will explain. For example, like MC Toon.
Brian, on the Gleason map itself, it says it's a projection of the globe. Also on the pattern for it, it is definitely a projection of the globe. There are websites where you can actually generate a projection of the globe, an azimuthal equidistant projection from any point on Earth, including the North Pole. It is definitely a projection of a globe.
Has a sextant challenge, but won't let us use the AE map, saying it's a globe projection, which shows either he's dishonest. Well, we know he's dishonest, but in this...
Well, Brian, if you don't think it's a projection of a globe, you're either dishonest, because Gleason himself said it was, or you're a complete idiot. I guess the third possibility is you're both.
Example, he's either dishonest or doesn't understand it. So I'll let you be the judge, but let me explain why the distances are correct. Like from Perth to Sydney, from Santiago to Sydney.
I can verify that the distances aren't correct. I've driven those distances. The distance, as per this map, is about 3 times as much.
They're all accurate as is. I'm going to explain and go into detail on how this map works. After you learn how this thing works, you will probably agree with me that Gleason was a super genius. Like, he literally figured out a way to accurately scale the flat Earth while simultaneously matching the celestial sphere or celestial dome.
Well, that's interesting because it doesn't, does it? We have a second rotation. We have the South Celestial Pole, a second pole of rotation. How does this work? How does the Gleason map explain that? He obviously didn't match the celestial globe.
It's pure genius. I'm going to tell you in this video why I think this map...
I guess complete idiots are genius to even bigger idiots, aren't they?
...was almost lost to history. And I'm going to show why I think some scientists about lost their minds trying to figure this out. And I'm going to break it down. So buckle up. So what Gleason figured out is if you're going to have a longitude and time calculator measuring angles and azimuths to stars, sun, moon, planets, whatever, you have to have an azimuthal equidistant map. And the trick is they acting like the azimuthal equidistant map is pertaining to the center just because it's centrally projected. That's not the case. The azimuths are equidistant to every celestial body at all times, at any position.
So Brian's just demonstrated he has no idea what an azimuth is and what an azimuthal equidistant projection is. This map is actually accurate if you go along a line of longitude. The distance between the South Pole and North Pole along that line of longitude matches the globe. The problem is when you go east-west, clearly it's distorted. Like I said, I've driven from Sydney to Perth and Sydney to Adelaide as well. I've measured those distances on my car's odometer, unless you think my car's odometer is a part of the big conspiracy. This is wrong. The other thing about this map is that the northern hemisphere is compressed while the southern hemisphere is expanded. I know MC Toon has driven a degree of longitude east-west in his state of the US, and on this scale, the US is about 2/3 of the width of Australia, which is not accurate. So that's actually something I was doing with MC Toon a couple of years ago. I needed to do my bit for here in the southern hemisphere, but I haven't had time to do it. We should do that. But yes, with the azimuthal equidistant map, it's just taking a point on the Earth's surface and measuring, projecting it out to, from that point, half a circumference away. That's all it is. You can see it's compressed in the northern hemisphere. Russia is nowhere near that small. And then expanded in the southern hemisphere. It's a distortion.
Otherwise, it wouldn't work. And it does work. But what's funny is reality would have it no other way.
It does work for the purpose that the Gleason's map was created, which was to indicate where the time zones are. Obviously, some time zones are politically managed. The international date line, for example, should come down through this one here. But because of the various island nations in this area, it moves around a bit. But that's a political thing. It's not a geographical thing, and it's not a map thing. Well, it's a map thing in the sense of political, but and there are different time zones in different areas. Australia has 3 time zones, 3 official ones anyway, and plus daylight saving on top of that in some states. India has a couple. The US has 3 as well, and so on. But that doesn't necessarily. It roughly corresponds to the lines of longitude, but it doesn't exactly do it. But that was the purpose of the Gleason's map, to be a time zone calculator. That's all it was. It wasn't for anything else.
And I'm going to show you what I mean by that, and then I'm going to break it down.
You're an ancient mathematician trying to figure out the circumference, the outer edge of this wheel. Now, you can't exactly use a ruler, and measuring tapes don't exist yet. So what can you do? Well, one way would be to roll it 1 full rotation and measure the distance it traveled. You're feeling extra curious today, and you want to try the same thing with a differently sized wheel. But then you notice something interesting. There is actually a smaller circle inside the larger wheel, which seems to have traveled the same amount. So does that mean it has the same circumference? Well, that doesn't seem right. Intuition tells you that the smaller circle should have a smaller circumference and therefore should have traveled a shorter distance. So what's going on? This is a paradox known as Aristotle's wheel, and it originated in an ancient Greek text called Mechanica. It tortured mathematicians and philosophers for centuries.
What the hell is this? It's primary school maths or something. Still his video.
Mathematicians went crazy over circles. So we're expected to believe that mathematicians were driven insane trying to understand the fact that any circle.
No, you idiot. Goodness me. That's a children's show. It's trying to explain the history of how we arrived at how we can figure those things out. You left the important bit out. You just stuck with the controversy that led to it. Oh, my God.
Circle on a wheel rolls out to the same distance like hands on a clock. As long as it's part of that circle, it's going to roll out to the same distance. And that's how the AE map works. Gleason, and I don't think it was just that.
Oh, that's his point. No, it doesn't. I've measured that distance, as I said before, and I see Clive Davis has said he's flown from Johannesburg over here to Sydney. It didn't, and I presume, Clive, you'll confirm it didn't go over India.
Simple fact, like they couldn't figure out hands on a clock. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's because they were trying to map out the flat earth. That's what drove them crazy. That seems more realistic to me. So I'm going to ask the Globers listening to put your flat earth hat on for a second. If we're using circular latitudes.
Put my flat earth hat on, okay?
To scale accurately and also project a celestial dome, we can't, you just think of this. If we have 3 big ass square countries, one toward the North Pole, like right at Cancer, one at the equator, and one at Capricorn, okay, they're going to all be different sizes. When measuring angles, you can't do that on a flat map in 2 dimensions, even on a flat plane in reality. It just doesn't work unless you have a true.
He has no idea, does he? It's almost hard to even explain where he's failing because he's so stupid that he wouldn't understand it.
Azimuthal equidistant map, meaning wherever you're at, your azimuth to everything is going to be equidistant. So picture this. You have a giant hand of a clock coming from the North Pole in reality. Let's say it's 20 miles high. Let's say we're at the Tropic of Cancer. We've got this giant hand of a clock. We've got a light bulb on it right over Cancer, right over, and it's 20 degrees from us. So we're going to get a certain distance. So why would traveling south and measuring light over Capricorn give us a different distance? It's still 20 degrees and it's still 20 miles high or whatever height. It doesn't matter the height.
Yeah, traveling south isn't the problem on the AE map. It's traveling east to west where you get the distortions. I mean, do you really think Australia is as big as Russia?
If the angle is the same, then you can form a circle of equal altitude around it. It's not going to change in reality.
Now he's just saying things, circle of equal altitude.
So that's the genius of Gleason's map. We can easily put this map to the test. Well, maybe not easily, but all we need to do is use the sun or the moon's zenith angles at Capricorn, Cancer, and the equator for whatever distance. Because if this map is accurate and it's a true depiction of reality, then they'll be the same at Capricorn, Cancer, and the equator. So to make this map.
How would that test it? How would that test it? Zenith is straight up. You don't know what zenith is, apparently.
That's reality. We just have to make the countries smaller relative to where you're at. So if you are based in the north,
You just have to make the country smaller relative to based on where you're at. I don't see any logic in that statement.
then countries are going to be smaller in the north. If you're in the south, then the countries are smaller in the south. And there's a program that depicts this, which I'm going to show in part 2. For example, Australia is about the same width as the United States in miles. It appears wider on the AE map. If you understood the map, you'd understand that it is the same
So you do see that.
distance. It's simply further away from the central location of that particular projection.
That's it, precisely what makes it inaccurate, you fool.
So if we were centered in the southern hemisphere, then the United States would be wider. The distance in miles didn't change, just the width it appears on the map changed due to your location. And it's the same.
That's what makes it an inaccurate map, you twit. I'm actually going to cut this one short. It's getting late in the stream, and I have a guest, a very honoured guest. Welcome, PhD Tony.
Hello, Hugh. How are you?
All right, thank you for joining me at short notice.
Oh, well, you're a little fortunate in that my alarm just went off. So yeah, and now I can see all of the messages on my phone that I suddenly missed. Oh well. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
That's all right. No, this is short notice. I didn't expect you to come at all, so I'm happy that you can join us. It was, like I said, short notice. It's probably not. I appreciate that you were able to join us because we're looking at Flat Earth Test, Brian Leake's channel. We just looked at the Gleason's map, and I think I'm just going to have a heart attack if we continue with that particular video. But he has this video where he calls it PhD Tony Gets Schooled in Globe Math. I think you'd appreciate having a look at this one if you haven't seen it before.
I haven't seen it, but I suspect I know what he's talking about.
Yep, it's going to be hilarious regardless. I'll just speed it up a little. Let's have a look.
So the geodetic is the straightest.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was you talking. Rather, it is you talking, but
yeah,
I thought it was you not on the video. Let's play now.
So the geodetic is the straightest path and shortest path along the surface of a curved.
Sorry, that is a little bit quick. Let's make it 1.25, just so that we're not on here forever.
So the geodetic is the straightest path and shortest path along the surface of a curved, along a curved surface, joining connecting 2 points. So yes, great circles on Earth's surface are not straight lines. I don't know where you. Well, actually, I do know where you got that from. A lot of people are very.
This is PhD Tony, a mathematician who clearly does not understand his own model, and it's crystal clear.
Brian Leake saying other people who are experts in the field don't understand. That's hilarious.
This is ridiculous.
Yes.
What flat earthers are having to do to teach these globers their own model. Now you just heard.
No, you're trying to teach them a straw man of their own model because you don't understand it.
Heard him say a geodesic is on the Earth's surface. Okay, so we're talking about spherical geometry, which only applies to the Earth's surface. And you hear.
No, it doesn't. It applies to the entire sphere. Isn't that right, Tony?
Yes, geodesics. The concept of a geodesic. Sorry, stop. The concept of a geodesic is related to any surface that has curvature, but it derives, as the name suggests, from studies across the surface of the Earth. It's a product of geodetic surveying. So yeah, the geodesics are the shortest and straightest. They are one of the ways of sort of measuring shortness, of measuring whether or not a path is the shortest, is measuring its distance from the corresponding straight line. So you parameterize the straight line, you parameterize the path on the curved surface, and you integrate along the path length to see the difference between them. So shortest and straightest are analogies, but geodesics are not straight lines. This is why the term straight lines is in inverted commas in this summary. They're not straight lines. They are the closest things to straight lines that you can get on that surface.
Yeah,
that's a geodesic.
Maybe straight path might be a better term.
There's no sense in which they're straight. If the surface is curved, then they are curved. That's it. So they're not actually straight lines. They are the straightest paths. They're the closest to being straight that you can get in that surface, but they are not straight. And Brian Leakey's inability to understand that is going to become clear during this conversation. It's quite sad because I was there, so I know what he's going to say. But Brian used to be moderately rational, and his mental health has deteriorated, and he's gotten more delusional, which is why he thinks that he explained this to me. But let's allow him to make his own errors.
And before we do that, I just want to recognise one of my members, Monkey in the Works. Thank you, Monkey in the Works, is gifted 5 memberships. Todd Ferguson, Fluminate Supervisor, Nikki Lauder, Jay Walken, Liska Day Babbitt, and Eddie Kokoek. Is that correct? Welcome to Jarsz. I'll have to update my member role now. Thank you very much for that, Monkey in the Works. Thank you very much. I'm sure those people will enjoy their memberships. Let's continue with the stupid.
Hear him say it's the shortest and straightest path between 2 points. So there's no confusion. It's his word saying on the surface.
He also doesn't seem to understand the difference between straightest and straight, does he?
Yes.
One's a relative term, the other one is definitive.
What he'll go on to assert. Oh, sorry. I should let him blunder into this anyway.
On with the stupid.
Of a sphere. And then goes on to say it's not a straight path on the surface of a sphere. Now,
yes, and that's the critical error. Let me jump in there. If there was a straight line on the surface, we wouldn't need geodesics. We could just say they're straight lines, right? The reason we use the term geodesic instead of straight line is because there are no straight lines on the surface. There are no straight lines, and the term straight and the term line both have very strict definitions in a mathematical sense, which is how I'm using it. S. Thurston's argument that lines that do not deviate to the side within the constraints are straight. No, that's not true, because you're assuming that the phrase "to the side" assumes a vertical. Assumes that the vertical is not to the side, so you're assuming an orientation, and mathematics doesn't do that. At least this differential geometry doesn't do that. There is no straight line on the surface of a sphere. That's why we're using geodesics. No, it's not straight. If you look at a straight stick, straight sticks aren't curved. Great circles are not straight lines. They are the shortest and straightest paths that you can take on the surface of a sphere, but they're not straight.
Yeah, like I said, there's a difference between the words straight and straightest.
Yes, there is a difference.
A couple weeks ago, we had to teach the same shit. Here's a
Brian, Flirfs only teach shit. It's all they're capable of.
Little refresher, short clip of us teaching Bob the science guy the same thing. Or for whoever hadn't seen the video, here's a little clip.
This will be good.
Earth that would go through Earth. They're saying diameter would they're not saying you wouldn't use the chord. You would slope across the surface of Earth, and that would be a larger diameter than what would produce the circumference of.
Yeah, you can't use a chord. You can't use a chord in spherical geometry.
Sure you can. Why can't you use a chord in spherical geometry?
Beach can use a chord in spherical.
It's just you cannot. It's just definitional. Because spherical geometry is a geometry restricted just to the surface of the sphere.
Talk to him. All right.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Where do you think chord came from?
Yeah, this is where trigonometry comes from. The chord function of the ancient Greeks is closely related to what we nowadays call the sine function, because and it's what they were interested in because it's the path between any 2 points on a circle, on an orbit. So in order to work out that chord length, they developed a special function to do it. The idea that, if you're talking in terms of spherical geometry, then yes, you are working on the surface of a sphere, but you can still use chord length, and you can still calculate chord length, and you can use that in mathematical manipulations to work out a distance. In fact, I've got a video that investigates the chord lengths and the great circle lengths between 4 equidistant points on a surface. So I found 4 points that are the same distance. Therefore, the Earth can't be planar. If it was planar, we wouldn't be able to do that. So they don't seem to understand the distinction between mathematical manipulations and physical reality.
Well, mass is kryptonite to Flurf, so
yeah,
it's not surprising. Let's let him hang himself a bit more.
Okay, you good, Bob?
You can't exit the surface of the sphere, go through the interior of the sphere, and then hit the other end of the surface, because then you would not be in the actual surface of the spherical geometry coordinate system. So you can't do that.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to teach them. That if you measure an area, you can't use a chord line on the surface of a sphere. So if you just sit back and listen, Bob, we'll teach you spherical geometry.
You're not going to teach me anything, Brian.
Yeah. To be fair, Bob, I think you did learn something just now about spherical geometry, that you can't have a chord. So.
Yeah, Bob. So I thought you could
this is so idiotic.
Yes.
This is so, and this is the same thing. Yes, a chord is a line that isn't on the surface of the sphere, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, or you can't use it, or you can't reference it. That's nonsense. Of course, that distance exists. That line, notional in most circumstances, exists and can be referenced and can indeed be included in calculations. If I'm trying to calculate various angles, it may be more convenient for me to work in the chord length rather than in terms of the arc. And in fact, a lot of spherical geometry, a lot of the mathematical proofs that the ancient Greeks came up with for spherical geometry is based on you proving that 2 chord lengths are the same. Therefore, the arcs must be the same. So these mathematical proofs rely on using chord lengths. So to claim that chord lengths can't be used in spherical geometry is just completely ignorant of how spherical geometry works and what its history is. And that's okay. It's okay to be ignorant of it. And up until, maybe a year ago, I hadn't delved as far as I have now into the history of spherical trigonometry and the way these proofs were brought together. But if you read up on it, these statements are absolutely meaningless.
Yes, and that what they tend to do is they look at something, they see something that they think supports them, and then they cling on to that for dear life and ignore everything else.
Yeah.
They'll probably demonstrate that more. We're going a little bit over time, so let's sort of
speed up.
We'll do another maybe 2 minutes of this video, and then we'll call it quits there, because I think you've made your point.
All right, now let's see if Tony knows any better than Bob the science guy.
No. You're missing something, bro. Spherical geometry only applies to the surface of the sphere, Tony. So are you deviating right or left? When you're saying not straight, is it deviating right or left? Because you can't go up or down in spherical geometry.
What the hell are you even talking about?
No, it's crystal clear, and nobody interrupted, and describing that when we're talking about spherical geometry, which is where geodesics exist, which he claimed are not straight on the surface of a sphere, I asked him which way does it deviate, right or left? I exampled the equator, because you can't deviate from the surface in spherical geometry.
What a meaningless question, right or left? But from what,
well,
it depends where you are and what way you're facing, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. So
right or left, I mean.
So what is confusing is The chord is the. I'm saying that a great circle isn't straight. I'm suggesting that there is a straighter path connecting 2 points, but I am not suggesting that there is a straighter path on the surface of the sphere connecting the 2 points. The straighter path, the straightest path connecting the 2 points is the chord, and that doesn't deviate to the left or to the right. It deviates vertically. So he is completely misunderstanding what the definition of a geodesic is. The definition of a geodesic is the curve that is closest to the straight line. It is in the case of a great circle, it is the curve that is closest to the chord, right? When you integrate the distance along the parameterized length of the chords and of the curve. So he just doesn't understand when he's saying, where's the straighter line? Is it to the left or to the right? You can't move vertically. Well, actually, I have to move vertically to get to the straighter line because the great circle is the straightest path on the surface of the sphere. So it is clear that he simply doesn't understand what's going on, and he won't shut up long enough to have the reality explained to him. So he is trapped in his own delusional ignorance.
That's one way of putting it. He's stuck in the cycle of stupidity.
Yes.
Because there's two elements you made clear there. It's straightest and it's across the surface. And he's sort of ignoring both of those because chord is neither.
He thinks that I'm claiming that there is a straighter line on the surface of the sphere. No, that's not what I'm claiming. I'm claiming that the straight line connecting the 2 points is explicitly not on the sphere.
Yeah. Anyway, the Flurfs hear what they want to hear, and that's why they get confused.
Yeah.
And when he just says, "What the hell are you talking about?" I think that's reality setting in, but he's pretty stubborn. So let's see where he goes. Oh, and this is where they start interrupting like crazy and white knighting for him because they know he's caught.
Said it's not straight. Is it deviating right or left? The equator is the equator is a great circle. Is it deviating right or left?
What you're talking about when I say that it's not straight, it's deviating from the chord that connects the 2 points. The chord
is spherical geometry, dipshit.
Well,
you got you, Tony. You got you.
Right, but none of them are parallel, right? So none of the meridians or longitudes are parallel. They're all straight lines on the surface of the sphere.
So now we're off, and I'm trying to explain to him that great circles are not parallel, for fuck's sake. And I'm describing the longitudes and the meridians as not being parallel, and he doesn't agree.
Now Tony's going to double.
Yeah, of course, great circles aren't parallel, but I didn't hear him say that until that voiceover. I wish he had better audio too. In fact, I might stop it there because the audio is crap on this. I think you've made your point, Tony. Brian has no idea what he's talking about, but he thinks he does.
Yeah, he is convinced that he understands this material, and he just doesn't. And it's really rather sad because for a moment there he was moderately coherent, and then but he's since sort of gone off the deep end. But it happens to most Flurfs. They just get increasingly convinced of their own brilliance.
Yes, that's the whole "I want to be important" thing. Stringer News 1 has just said, Hugh Jarsz is so huge, his belt is parallel to his suspenders. I guess, my suspenders and belt would be great circle roots, wouldn't they?
Well, assuming that he could be saying that you're cylindrical.
It's possible, yes. It depends on which angle you look at me. All right. I'm going to leave the video there because I like to keep these between half an hour and 45 minutes. Let's jump. Hang on. Where is it? There it is. And do that. We're going to do our meme roundup to finish off. Now I have to share again, don't I? I wish 3 minutes was better. And we're almost there. There we go. All right. I love this one in particular. This is a Flurf meme. So he does a shadow experiment in the first frame. And clearly the sun in this one is below the clouds, which are symbolized by whatever this is up here, which kills flat Earth, which matches the original. The angle isn't quite right, so you think you'd get that right, but for some reason they think it's perspective. What I like about this is, first of all, it doesn't match the perspective they've drawn here. Second of all, this is apparently a cloud bank because you can see light underneath it, and that would be the horizon. Their vanishing point is above the horizon, proving that the Earth curves away from you.
Yes.
Using their measurements. I think their measurements are wrong, but they're debunking themselves. What a surprise.
They've fudged that more than perhaps more than a little. If you notice, the top line starts a little outside the shadow and then cuts across a little outside at its extreme left-hand side. It starts a little bit outside the shadow, and then it cuts across the right-hand side of the shadow, whereas it should, if it's following the left-hand side of the shadow, it should hit the left-hand side of Mount Rainier, and it doesn't. So they've fudged this perspective diagram to give them the results that they want, which is an indication of their dishonesty.
Or they have no idea what they're doing, or both.
Yes.
I think this one, I included this one because I was thinking of Bev, and he must take a lot of these.
Yeah. And he still doesn't understand, but anyway.
He refuses to. Flat Earth, this one's come up recently. I've only seen it recently, and they say, oh, how could that, if that's the globe and it matches this picture, which it doesn't, how could this possibly be a representation of the globe? You know, they got everything wrong here. First of all, for some reason they think the Mercator is not a projection. A lot of people do that. A lot of flirts do that. I mean, this flirts would look at this and say, "Oh, that proves that Earth ain't flat," but it's actually proving the opposite, guys.
Yeah,
it's showing you don't.
One of the things that is quite instructive is to actually study map projections in detail. The mathematics are quite interesting if you're into the mathematics. So one of the things I had to do as a research assistant, sort of just after graduating, was write code that would plot plot how the Earth looked under various map projections, and it's very interesting because the height of the observer changes everything. So sort of for the azimuthal ones anyway. It's really interesting, and it does help me at least understand how why photographs of Earth from satellites and space stations look so different. Because I've done the mathematics, I've plotted that. I know exactly how it looks.
And you don't have to rely on maths. You could just take a picture of a globe from across the room and then close up, and then zoom them in to match the same size, angular width, and you'll see a difference because that's just the way it works.
Yes.
Dan's done that a lot of times.
Yep.
And this is another flat Earth killer. You should be able to see the sun from anywhere. I've seen another meme. I think I showed it in my first Daily Jarsz. They were showing a light bulb up against a wall, and it was showing a circle of light on the wall. But they were saying, "Oh, this is why it casts a circle of light, just like the sun does." But the thing is, you can see it from the dark.
Yeah, exactly.
And that photo demonstrated that because it was taken from the dark.
Yeah, they're invoking some sort of magic. They also, there are a million problems if the sun is local. For instance, why do solar storms take 3 days to get to us, and why do they hit the entire planet pretty much all at once? So that would be one of my arguments, but there's just Also, if the sun were local, then as you went higher in the atmosphere, you would get hotter on daylight, but instead the opposite happens. So it's just it's a cluster. Sorry, I was going to use a naughty word. It's just it's a clusterfuck of a model from beginning to end. There is absolutely nothing that it explains, and there are a million questions that it can't explain.
Yeah, they make up something to answer one particular question, but don't think about the other questions that raises. They just don't have a scientific mind frame.
No.
So you were speaking about magic. This is a debunking one, and this explains how eclipse happens on flat Earth. You see the moon getting thinner and thinner as it approaches the sun for a solar eclipse. Then suddenly a black sun magically appears to eclipse the sun, and then it just moves away. Magic is the main answer for flat Earth.
Yeah, magic is the main answer for flat Earth. I liked so Conspiracy Tunes had a thing about Santos Bonacci predicting them, and he went onto a website and looked at nodes of Moon's orbit. Yeah, the nodes of Moon's orbit around the Earth are the point where it crosses the plane of the ecliptic. So you're looking at the points where the nodes coincide with the Earth-Sun ray. That's when eclipses can occur, and that's why you have eclipse seasons. So there's
every 6 months or so.
Yeah, well, there's a 2-week period, and I think just about every solar eclipse is accompanied by a lunar eclipse. Not entirely certain about that, but it's pretty much the pattern. Anyway,
I never understand how someone like Santos Bonacci gets those sort of things wrong, because as an astrologer, he has to study astronomy. So he knows all these things, and yet somehow he thinks Earth and flat. So when a flat earther finally finds out who's been deceiving them, it's themselves.
Yeah.
It's pretty, or their Papa Flurf, I guess. But in the end, they got to allow their Papa Flurf to deceive them. So in the end, they really have no one to blame but themselves.
Yeah, which is kind of the saddest part.
Yes. So this is obviously a local sun. It's between the crane and the rocket. And yet Flurfs always come up with images of the sun and say, oh, it's in the clouds, it's in the clouds. No, it's just that the clouds in front of the sun, the glare of the sun have made it impossible for the camera to pick them up. Here we got a fairly solid object in the form of the rocket, even though you can see here that the glare is starting to affect it. But the crane, which has lots of holes in it, the light just comes straight through and the camera just picks up this massive bright object. So it appears to be between them two, but clearly it's on the other side. It wouldn't be like that in real life. Otherwise, we'd all burn to death.
Yes.
It wouldn't be that low in the sky anyway, would it? I mean, this is what.
Well, it would be a rather dangerous place to put a lot of rocket fuel.
I think I got. Oh yes. So just to finish off, I thought I'd include this photo, which is a rather beautiful photo. But you can see the belt of Venus, basically. I don't know if it's a sunrise or sunset. I think it's a sunrise, would be my guess. I think that's Venus or Jupiter up here. But yeah, that's not, again, sun's below the horizon, yet we're seeing the sun's light. If the sun's moving closer to us, how is that possible?
Yeah. That is an interesting optical effect. I don't think I've come across that before. But
yeah, it's the Earth's shadow. Yeah, the belt of Venus. So... that's a beautiful picture. I thought it was a nice way to end.
It is a beautiful picture.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Tony, for joining me at short notice too. I very much appreciate that, and it was good to get your wise counsel on spherical geometry as well.
Yeah. Well, you're very welcome. Thank you.
And folks, thanks for joining us as well. Let me know who you'd like me to look at in the near future by leaving a comment below. Tomorrow I'm going to have a look at Gary Why Bother for the very last time, at least presumably. He has one last chance, so tune in to see what happens. Hopefully he will find out about this stream as well. Do the YouTube things. Like the stream, please, especially if you liked it. Subscribe if the feeling takes you, or click join, as so many people have today to be members. Yes, Wally, you're too late. Leave a comment about what you think about Brian Leake. I love to read your comments, so please give me lots of them. Also, please give me some feedback on the Daily Jarsz as a whole. This is my attempt to get things going on this channel. Some Jarsz is better than no Jarsz, I think. What segments do you suggest? What do you like so far, and what don't you like? Or who or what should I cover in the future? Let me know in the comments, or look in the description for other ways to contact me on Discord, email, that kind of thing. I think, Tony, that's just about all we have to do.
There's nothing left to do but
Except
cue the
one
corgi.
more thing.
You're despicable.